2020 is a realistic fictional account of events in the United States in the years 2019 and 2020, culminating in the election of the year 2020. It is a fictional account, but the places that I take the reader to are real, and whether they're in Washington, D.C. or New York City, or maybe a foreign location like Buenos Aires, Argentina, there are real institutions like the U.S. government or the Federal Reserve, but then there's also some made-up institutions and agencies as well. The characters, of course, are all fictional. The goal is to try to get the readers to imagine that even though they're reading a fictional account, maybe these things can actually happen. It's not set so far in the future to really be a big stretch of the imagination. And really, another important point of the book is to try to get the reader to understand what happens when economics and politics intersect. It can be very, very explosive.
The 2016 presidential election has gotten a great deal of attention, without a doubt. But for three of the candidates, I would say their campaigns really don't fit the mold of what we normally consider conventional GOP or Democratic politics. The reasons can be traced back to the 2000 election, when we began to paint the country as red and blue. Same for 2008. And now our view is very, very polarized. The Tea Party came around in 2009, but they were really just a segment of the Republican Party. But what if an American presidential election actually had more than two strong parties running for office? And I don't mean like Ross Perot in 1992. How would the American people react if they had more than these two choices? This is part of the novel's plot.
The book's protagonist is a character by the name of Chandler Scott. Chandler is a TV news journalist working for an Argentinian-based network called El Mundo. And he's got his own show on El Mundo called Centinela. He investigates economic and political events in the United States and abroad. You see a lot of his interactions with his boss, who serves as a mentor figure, Rafael Mendoza, a very fiery Argentinian that wants to do everything, very high energy and so forth. He has another important mentor in his life by the name of Axel Schultz. He's a first-generation American who was born of Austrian parents, and so he has that Austrian school of economics, libertarian thought process within him, and he's very successful in his own right. And so Chandler relies on these two gentlemen for a lot of mentor relationships. Growing up, Chandler in a single-parent household, he didn't really have that strong male influence, and so these two gentlemen have kind of served that role, a proxy role, if you will, in Chandler's adult life.
The backdrop of the story has the U.S. economy continuing to plod through the economic malaise that started in 2008. Wall Street kept charging ahead into 2016, but then the bull market wobbled, and eventually it led to a big crash in the market. After a brokered GOP convention in 2016, one of the candidates ran unsuccessfully, but marked the birth of a standalone third party that won seats in 2018, along with another third party that also won seats in the 2018 election. The country also started to experience an increasing frequency of terror events, but it wasn't just physical terror we needed to worry about. Cyber terrorists began to disrupt infrastructure, businesses, and even the financial markets. Heck, even when there was a fake terrorist scare, there was a great deal of damage done to the country. With all of these terror events in a very unstable economy, government's authority grew. Surveillance of all kinds reached near universal proportions. People became wary of speaking on the phone, texting, and emailing. Every piece of electronic communication was warehoused. The government had its eye on you.
The book is divided into three parts. The first part deals with the development of Chandler Scott. You see him, again, visiting some locations overseas. This is particularly in Catalonia, where he understands what's going on, tries to understand what's going on with the secession movement there. You see his development with his boss. Again, that was a mentor relationship. His relationship with Axel Schultz, his other mentor. He develops a relationship with a woman, and it becomes a challenge for him as he moves forward in the story, because he's getting very involved with these other stories that he's covering. The second part of the book deals with something that I'll call the crisis, a very important event occurs in the United States, and you have these competing interests about how to resolve the problems. Chandler's in the middle of all that, trying to conduct some investigations. He's working with his mentor Axel. He's working with another member of government, and he's kind of discovering some things that some people don't know about. And then the final part is what I'll call 2020, which is again the culmination of everything, the election, the presidential election of the year 2020, the part that precedes it, part of the campaign, the final presidential debate, which is prominently included in the book, and the aftermath of the election. And there's where you, hopefully as a reader, you see what really occurs when you have politics and economics just colliding, very explosively.
Readers are going to be conflicted by the novel's ending. You know you're reading fiction, but it's not a stretch to see these events actually happening. I hope you enjoy the book.